Silverwolf level 999 is one of the best DPSs in the game upon her release, but it can be quite complicated to optimize properly. But before we get into her builds, let's go over why her kit is so good to begin with. Silverwolf's entire gimmick revolves around her talent and ultimate, and is based on stacks of hidden MMR. Basically, one punch line equals 1 MMR, but Silverwolf also has other ways to gain stacks. She requires 60 to use her ultimate, and it can overflow up to 300 stacks. After you use her ultimate, she enters the God Player state, deploys her zone, action advances, is immune to crowd control debuffs, and can use 3 enhanced basic attacks. So kind of like Rappa on steroids. What the zone does is that when allies use skill points, there is a chance to trigger a top loot box that deals 90% elation damage split evenly among all enemies. There are 3 effects you can randomly get. Big Flipping Sword, it deals 20% true damage to the highest HP enemy. Kaboom Explosion, that recovers 2 skill points. And Funky Munch Beam, that regenerates 3 punch lines. Yeah, gacha in the gacha game. I have no idea the exact probability at which it triggers. I just know if you have low skill points, there's a higher chance to trigger the explosion, and you have low hidden MMR, there's a higher chance to get the Funky Munch Bean, the Pac-Man. The first skill, it's 100% guaranteed, and then it reduces to 20% of the current chance, and so on, so the third time is 4%. Thankfully, we can reset the probability back to 100%, but that only occurs during Silverwolf's other elation skill. Silverwolf's elation skill does 540% elation damage and resets the probability. But Silverwolf's enhanced basic attack can also trigger the top loot box 3 times on top of dealing 340% elation damage. So each enhanced basic attack is actually more like 610%, and if you trigger the sword, you get more true damage on top of that. Best part is that during her enhanced basic, for every 60 hidden MMR she has, the damage dealt increases by 15% of the original damage, stacking up to 2 times, so 30%, and this is the S or SS rank you see here, by the way. If you're not familiar with the wording, this is not a damage boost, this is an independent multiplier. The thing is, hidden MMR can also increase the crit rate up to 100% and then continues to convert into extra crit damage. So not only are her multipliers very high, she also gets a ton of free crit stats, and her enhanced basic attacks also get an independent boost, which is why she can easily hit for millions and millions of damage once you've hit triple S rank. The cherry on top is that Silverwolf also gets a speed to elation conversion like Yao Guang. At 160 speed, you get 50% elation, and from then on, 1 speed gives you 2 elation. So if you're able to hit 201 speed like here, that's already 132%. Her technique also helps her stack MMR faster by summoning a Funky Munch Bean at the start of each wave. It deals damage at a fixed 99 certified banger, but it can also follow you around and defeat enemies, so it can be very useful for Diverging Universe and so on. And the final part of the kit, just like Kesteris, Silverwolf 999 has a global passive. After an ally is inflicted by crowd control, all allies gain Firewall for 1 turn, which immunes them to crowd control entirely. This effect can trigger once per wave, by the way, not once per battle. This might actually be stronger than Kesteris' global passive, but I don't quite seem to see people talking about it now. But anyways, there are a few things about her kit that stand out to me immediately. Silverwolf's most glaring weakness is her hidden MMR. 60 punch lines for the ultimate is quite high, which means there will be awkward periods of downtime where you're just waiting for Silverwolf to stack. During this downtime, she actually does like nothing, because all her damage is tied to her ultimate. And after using your ultimate, you clear 40 hidden MMR, 20 if you have S1, meaning you have to restack again, right? So because your independent multiplier and free crit stats scale with your hidden MMR, your first and second attacks can lose quite a bit of damage. The other annoying thing to me is that Silverwolf advances action instead of taking an extra turn. Silverwolf already wants to build a ton of speed, right? So like I mentioned in the Sparxie guide, a lot of the skill expression for elation teams is maximizing your certified banger uptime. Yao Guang was at least compensated by allowing her bangers to last for 1 more turn, but Silverwolf got nothing like that. This also messes with speed tuning, by the way, because 200 speed is usually a very strong breakpoint, because it allows you 3 turns in 1 cycle or 2 turns in 150 action value. But because of the downtime and action advance, Silverwolf will usually only take 3 turns instead of the potential 4 with an extra turn. Like I mentioned, Silverwolf's kit is basically Elation Rappa, but better, and Rappa's kit is honestly a huge mess, but at least Rappa gets the extra turn. So this choice is definitely intentional. As a result, teammates that can stack punch lines very quickly are super important because it both reduces her downtime and increases her damage, so it's really hard to play her without teammates like that. If this remains unchanged, it will definitely come back to bite her in the future. Right now in game, a lot of enemies can give you punch line, so it doesn't feel like that, especially if you have a light cone and Sparxie S1. But when we stop shilling Elation in the future, you better have a best in squad teammates, otherwise you're gonna out every 5 years. On the other hand, if you're able to complete her best in squad team right now, Silverwolf level 999 is currently one of the best DPS units in the game, sitting at 85,000 DPV with a sustain. To give you a better perspective, this is very close raw damage to the Mono Remembrance team, the best team by far in the game for the previous few patches. That is just the math though. In actual gameplay, she's also very flexible and versatile, and this is because a ton of her damage is bounce, but she can still hit all 5 enemies. So even if the multiplier is lower for AoE, because she gets the top loot box so often, she still has very high frequency of attacks, and this lets you clear AoE pretty comfortably still. It's going to be a bit more annoying versus enemies that can summon mobs that don't do anything because your damage is less efficient, right? But most bosses now at least reward you for defeating the summons. In fact, we have 2 bosses in a row that give you punch line for defeating summons, so it's not a big problem for Silverwolf right now. Also, bounce is just RNG, right? So she has a ton of variance in the kit in addition to the top loot box. But I think it's a pretty worth it trade-off anyway, since you'll be able to play Silverwolf in pretty much all content and has great value for your account in general on top of her insane damage output. I genuinely zero-cycled everything within my first or second try. I could also clear Pure Fiction versus non-imaginary enemies. After playing so many creator server betas, Silverwolf has probably been the easiest for me so far, and she's definitely overperforming in current content. So if you want to reach this insane level of performance, we are going to have to learn how to build her properly. Firstly, for deck sets, it's super easy. Ever Glorious Magical Girl and Punk Lord Stage 0. Main stats are also straightforward. Crit rate or crit damage body, just make sure you don't exceed 100% with external crit rate buffs. Speed boots, obviously, since she converts speed to elation. And Silverwolf during her ultimate has absolutely no attack scaling. So we run HP or defense op and ropes for better survivability. People keep asking if attack does anything, but it literally does not do anything. Like an attack means that gives her 0.00001% more damage, because she uses a skill once at the start of the battle, and that's it. For substats, obviously focus a ton on speed first, because Silverwolf can already give herself crit rate and damage, so speed is by far the biggest priority. Next, for light cones, because Elation is a new path, her options are quite limited. Firstly, her signature Welcome to the Cosmic City is a very powerful light cone tailor-made just for her. 18% speed, 20% Elation defense ignore, and 20 punch line after using her ultimate, resetting after 3 basic attacks. 18% speed converts to about 40% elation for her, on top of taking actions faster obviously, and defense ignore is really nice when stacking with Ever Glorious Magical Girl. But the best part about her S1 is that 20 punch line, because it means after using her ultimate you can stack MMR faster, so you can hit SS or triple S rank more easily for more damage. This icon is also very important for E1 and E2 if you're looking to get those, but I'll get to that later. From here we have the Better Pass light cone. It gives crit rate and elation, and is also quite a bit worse than her signature to no one's surprise. Mashi Shumi's Adventures is also surprisingly good, however it only performs this well when you have at least Sparxie E0S1. Without the S1 or Sparxie herself, the damage can and will drop more. Finally, we have a new Forza light cone, Tomorrow Together. I'm not sure where this is from yet, but it is the worst option anyway for light cones, as the elation buff only lasts for 1 turn, and extra crit damage isn't very helpful when she already has a ton of it. The next important step to optimizing Silverwolf's damage is her team building. Like I mentioned earlier, she is super dependent on punch line stacking, and so her 2 best in squad teammates are Sparxie and Yaoguang. On top of stacking punch lines, Sparxie is also very easily able to trigger the top loot box, so obviously amazing synergy there. And with Yaoguang being able to trigger an AHA instant is incredibly OP for Elation teams, because it not only means more damage, but it also helps Silverwolf stack more MMR. Elation MC actually doesn't have the best synergy with Silverwolf. I saw some people saying Elation MC was only 5% worse, and I have no clue how you could come to that conclusion. I don't have a guide on Elation MC yet, so let me just quickly summarize it. Elation MC is just a budget or worse version of Yaoguang. It can copy the Elation skill of only one ally, so no AHA instance there, and mainly give Elation and crit damage buffs, but can also directly give certified bangers without having to go through the AHA instant, so kind of like skipping a step. The issue is, punch lines are super important for Silverwolf, so skipping this step actually hurts her more than it helps her. I think Elation MC is just much more suited to other teams, most likely Avanesia, but Silverwolf's main team will probably be fixed with Sparxie and Yaoguang for now. With Hoyoverse Novel Flare, she is a very good choice for sustain for this team, because her ultimate can regenerate energy and can give an attack buff to Sparxie. Yao Guang especially is super energy hungry, so it's mainly benefiting her, allowing her to get 3 ultimates in 300 action value. But there's obviously some anti-synergy, right? Attack buffs are only useful for Sparxie, and energy regen does not benefit Silverwolf at all. So I wouldn't be surprised if she is replaced in the near future in a Silverwolf team. So for now, if you are running Huohuo, I would run Messenger or Warrior Goddess paired with Broken Kill. Messenger can occasionally be stronger depending on the timing of her ultimate. This can be really strong because both Yao Guang and Silverwolf convert speed to elation, so it can become a pretty strong elation buff for one turn. However, if you don't have Yao Guang or you don't time it well, it will just be worse than Warrior Goddess. So in general, I recommend that instead, because it's just more consistent and easier to play and doesn't lose out on much damage anyway. For Elation MC, assuming you're not running Sparxie but Hypercarry Silverwolf, there really isn't a good 4-piece set yet, since Yao Guang is already on the team, because Diviner cannot stack, right? So Messenger actually performs better, but once again this is inconsistent and can vary, while for planers, I usually run Sprightly, but you can also run Broken Kill. And finally, when playing Silverwolf with Sparxie, you ideally want Sparxie to be ahead of Aha Instance. This means more damage during the Aha instant because you stack Punch Line before it, and also because Silverwolf resets the top 2 probability each Aha instant, right? So we guarantee ourselves the best chance at getting more loot boxes. The speed required for this is around 147 to 148. There's no fixed speed, unfortunately, because Aha is based on your teammates' speed. For example, if both your Yao Guang and Silverwolf are slower, then the requirement will also be lower. This 147 is based on Silverwolf and Yao Guang both being around 200 speed. Unfortunately, you just have to calculate it yourself with your builds and just make sure that Sparxie is faster than that. Finally, if you're interested in Eidolons, firstly E1 gives 20% vulnerability during her ultimate and also retains 20% of her hidden MMR after. Clearly, the developers know that stacking hidden MMR is her biggest weakness, which is probably why this is her E1. This isn't very strong by itself, but when combined with her other Eidolons, it becomes much stronger. E2 extends all debuffs on her for one turn when entering the ultimate, again addressing the other part of the kit I didn't like. But the reason why it's strong is because it also gives an extra turn at 120 and 240 MMR. For now, we can only get 3 extra turns in 2 ultimates because you can't stack to 240 consistently without Elation Shield on her first ultimate. By the way, we are reaching the point where the base DPAV is really high, so once again let me remind you, percentages are not all that. We look at both the percentages and the DPAV increase. It's a 42,000 DPAV increase at 49%. So this increase alone is equivalent to some of the best teams we have in the game prior to her release. It is still a very good Eidolon and can still get better in the future if we get a 4th Elation unit, but for now, does require ideally Sparxie and her S1 and Silverwolf's own S1. Either that or Yao Guang E1 or something like that, otherwise it can be quite hard to stack up to 240 without extra punch lines from enemies. E4 multiplies the punch line calculated for her elation skill during her ultimate by 5, since we can more easily stack hidden MMR with both E1 and S1. We also get to use her honkai damage demo more often, which is why it's still a decent increase in damage. Finally, E6 merrymakes elation damage dealt during the enhanced basic by 50%. Merrymaking is elation's form of independent multipliers since it's super rare. So all of your damage during her basic attack will just increase by 50% if you don't have like Yao Guang E6. If that isn't enough, she can reduce the resistance of enemies to 0. If it's already 0, she'll then reduce it by 20%. So E6 is really good for brute forcing on top of the insane damage boost from merrymaking, and the total DPV hits a really disgusting 200,000. You don't see this every day. So kind of like Evernight, Silverwolf has really high value Eidolons. It can be quite hard to choose what to invest in. Firstly, before Eidolons, Silverwolf should get Sparxie and Yao Guang to complete the team. If you can get both their signature light cones as well, that would be ideal. From here, Yao Guang E1 or Silverwolf S1, and then straight to Silverwolf E2. Like I said, Silverwolf E1 by itself isn't very strong, and only really sees massive value at E2 onwards. Huohuo E1 is also like a permanent messenger, right? So can be quite strong, but again there's some anti-synergy, so if you want to be playing exclusively Silverwolf in the future, I would probably not get Huohuo E1 unless it's free. It can be strong now, the speed, but I think that's just more so because we don't really have a better choice. And that's pretty much it for my Silverwolf level 999 guide. I will have showcase videos out for her, so if you want to learn how to use her in battle or see how she performs, be sure to subscribe for that. But anyways, thanks for watching and see you.